We begin overseas this morning as the world watches Russia's Winter Olympics, a violent crisis unfolding next door in Ukraine. Anti-government protesters are confronting police for a second day. This is a live look from Kiev this morning. Ukraine's health ministry says 25 people are dead in the violence that began flaring yesterday.
In response, some European nations are threatening the ruling government with sanctions. Sweden's foreign minister says Ukraine's president, quote, has blood on his hands. But Russia is blaming the opposition, asking the U.S. and other countries to stay out. Holly Williams is above Independence Square in Kiev, where both sides say they're ready to escalate the violence. Holly, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie and Nora. This is the worst violence witnessed in Ukraine since the country broke free of the Soviet Union 22 years ago. Ukrainian riot police stormed Independence Square, the symbolic heart of Kiev, which has been occupied by anti-government protesters since November. Thousands of demonstrators stood their ground as the centre of Ukraine's capital descended into chaos. The police broke down protesters' barricades with armoured personnel carriers and fired tear gas and stun grenades into the crowd. The demonstrators fought back with rocks, fireworks and Molotov cocktails. As street battles raged into the night, casualties were suffered by police and protesters. There were accusations that live ammunition was fired, though both sides denied it. These protests began peacefully in November when Ukraine's government rejected a trade agreement with Europe in favour of a $15 billion financial bailout from Russia. But after enduring decades of Soviet rule, many Ukrainians are fearful of Moscow's influence. The demonstrators also accuse their government of corruption and hope closer ties with Europe will bring greater democracy. Now those divisions have turned bloody, and talks last night aimed at finding a political solution quickly collapsed. Opposition leader Vitaly Klitschko said it was the government that was unwilling to compromise.
I'm very unhappy because it was no discussion and President don't want to listen opposition.
But in an address to the nation, President Viktor Yanukovych blamed the protesters for the violence, telling Ukrainians that a line had been crossed when people had been called to arms. Russia has close links with Ukraine's leaders, but the US and Europe have been critical of the government here for the way it's handled these demonstrations. Now, in language that is reminiscent of the Cold War, they're blaming each other for interfering in Ukraine's politics.